When board games give us more, we're rolling with more. Hi, I'm Will, and with me as always is the one who believes friendship is magic and magic is homework.
Sarah.
And today we're taking a look at the expansion for My Little Pony. Oh, this is a really long name, isn't it?
Adventures in Equestria.
Yeah.
Deck building game.
Deck building game. Scholarly Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Sarah, tell us a bit about this overly long named expansion.
All right. Taking place in the School of Friendship, the Scholarly Shenanigans expansion includes classrooms, anthems, almanacs, challenge accepted, and pick a perk cards. Also, the character cards come with a new yearbook mechanic. The hurdles have a nullify mechanic, and situations have now authority. Otherwise, there are new cards for all other types of cards in the game. Okay, so let's go over each one of those things I just listed in more detail.
First off, there's no bot. Though, with all the new stuff, you might feel that you're playing with an AI.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Okay, so we're going to start with the classrooms and the EEA. So they're like locations, but you move to them using books instead of movement for the other locations.
Each classroom will have a different number of books to move to it.
Right.
And when you're able to remove the EA token, it flips to a more powerful site, but it'll also cost more books to get there.
Right. So there's only 2 spaces on each classroom. Unfortunately, they're restricted. You only can use 1 space in a 1 and 2 player game, and then both spaces in a 3 and 4 player game. And the spaces do restrict, well, the number of players that can be there.
Yes.
So that EEA token is a bad thing. I vaguely remember it from the show. It was like the governing authority.
Yeah, like Equestrian Education Authority.
Yeah, something like that. So they always came by and meddled with things, saying you're not doing things right. So you have to challenge them here using the Chaos deck to remove them. Now, why you need to do that is because if there's any EEA tokens on classrooms, when you go to challenge the final hurdle, the players will have to
remove their cubes,
yeah,
the sugar cubes, and it'll prioritize whatever sugar cube the final challenge really needs. So, for example, if it really needs blue and you have an EEA token, then you'll start removing blue tokens from each player.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if you have to discard all or just, was it 1?
There's this particular number based on the number of tokens.
Okay. So
if there's more tokens, more cubes get removed.
Right, that's it. So bad things happen if you don't get rid of the EEA, but of course you're using the Chaos deck, which means you can't really prepare well for it.
Yeah, you'll just flip up a number and then try to meet that. However, the extra difficulty is, unlike hurdles, the only ones who can contribute to overcoming that particular challenge is the people that are on the classroom itself that you're challenging. So in a 2-player game, since there's only 1 spot, only 1 person can tackle the entire challenge by themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very friendship is magic to me. But
yeah, friendship means all by yourself.
Right. So I think that covers mechanically how that works, but the classrooms themselves are a neat addition in terms of what additional effects that they give you, because you just have to move to it, and if you stay there you get the benefit at the beginning of your turn every turn that you're there.
Yeah, which is pretty useful. It's like, here's an extra card, or here's an extra token.
Yeah, so it can be very powerful. It's just got that negative side of you have to get rid of it. Otherwise, you're going to have to be getting rid of sugar cubes right before you go against the final challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there's this large oversized card that one side is the guidance counselor's office and the other side is the principal's office. It can be used with classrooms or by itself. So like one of the things it said is if you think the classrooms are too complicated, you could just play with this oversized card by itself. They're not connected.
The funny thing is, I think it says it requires 0 books to move there.
Yeah, and you know, in our game, we never did actually move there because there were so many other things to do. So it would be interesting to try a game with just it. But anyways, I think it's the guidance counselor office side. You can reserve cards that are in the row And
depending on what type of card it is, you'll pay different amounts of books.
Right.
And then you'll just reserve it there so that it'll never get knocked off by the card row moving.
Right.
If there's something that is especially powerful but it costs too much, then that would be a great time for you to go there, reserve it, and keep it for a future turn.
Yes. Now, the principal's office can allow you to remove cards from your discard, and the cost then will also depend on, or no, the bonus that you get. Because removing it from your deck, you actually get a bonus, and it gets better the better the card is that you get rid of.
Yeah, starter cards are the least beneficial.
Right, because you most time want to get rid of those.
Yeah, with allies being some of the more powerful.
Yeah. Now, anthems, these cards are grouped with artifacts. And so this gets a little challenging because you only have 6 artifact-like cards.
Super allies was in a different one.
Yeah, I'm forgetting. There's another one that I'm forgetting.
Yes.
Anyways, so you're not going to have too many of these in the game, especially if you mix it with other things, because 6 cards is not a lot. But it's a, ongoing effect that does actually involve everybody. So all players at a specific location when this card is out, because you'll play it and then it stays out like other ongoing cards. So if you're at a location and it's your card with other people, everybody there, including you, has to discard an ally with a trait that matches the anthem.
Sun, moon, mountain.
Right. And then you can get the benefit according to which icon you discarded. But if even one person can't or won't, for whatever reason, discard a card, then nobody can use the card.
Yes.
So
each anthem will also only have, I believe, 2 traits at any given time. So there will be one trait that's just not available.
Right. It's a neat concept because this actually does delve into we are friends, we are harmonizing, we are singing, because that's basically what it is. You are singing as a group and harmonizing together. Just wish it actually occurred more often, but you know.
With only a chance for at max 6.
Well,
and it has to share with artifacts and super
and
allies.
it can be hard to get allies sometimes, because those are also a card type that there's not often a lot of in.
And they usually cost more.
So it's really neat. It's just a mechanism we didn't see happen much.
I think we finally got one, but by the time we got it, it was near the end of the game.
I think we might have activated it once.
Yeah.
But almanacs, these are also grouped with artifacts, and these are a duration card. So you're going to get a benefit when you play it, and then a benefit on the next turn. Now, some of them kind of have a requirement that you have to meet to get the next turn benefit, and some of them are kind of tough or negative to have to, like you have to get rid of things. I can't remember any off the top of my head.
Well, some of the negative ones would give you a really good benefit now,
right,
but penalize you later.
Yeah, that's what it was. So again, interesting concept, but like with a lot of this expansion, you get something good and bad together, and there's very little that's not balanced out, unfortunately. It's not just here's a good thing, it's here's a good thing and a bad thing, have fun.
The weird thing about almanacs were the fact that they also share with the artifacts and the
So you're also not
anthems.
going to see a lot unless you put in, well, just 6 almanacs. But they're also expensive, because that's the thing.
Yeah.
The artifact grouping are very expensive cards because they are very powerful.
Right.
So, okay, so challenge accepted shows up on some of the cards. It ties in with attempting to overcome the active hurdle. So if you're not going to attempt to overcome the active hurdle on your turn, then you just ignore whatever the challenge accepted text is. But if you do attempt the hurdle, well, here's where it gets a little tricky. If you succeed at the hurdle, then you look at the effect of the card you play that has the challenge accepted. You get that benefit, and then you get the hurdle reward. Where the rules don't specify is, do you still get the challenge accepted reward if you fail on the hurdle? Because all it says is that you have to attempt.
Yeah, and that says to me that you still get it,
regardless
whether you succeed.
Right, and that's our assumption. We just wish that the rules had actually specified that clearly, because it does leave that in question.
I also wonder if challenge accepted applies to when you're going after the EEA tokens in the classrooms, because those are also similar to hurdles.
But they're not called.
But they're not called.
Yeah, they're not called the hurdles.
Yes.
So I don't know. Pick a perk. Very simple effect.
Two options.
Get 2 options. You pick one when you play the card. Very nice. And a lot of the times it's really nice to have both options. Like one of the ones I think you had was you get to draw a card.
And you get a token.
And I get a token, or vice versa. I get to draw a card, he gets a token. So this is really good options.
Yes. That one actually felt like friendship.
Yes, it did. Okay, back to hurdles. Hurdles now have nullify. So it's going to specify certain tokens that you can't use either side. So you can't even use the wild side to try to overcome the hurdle. You just really can't use that token. And all of the hurdles that come with this expansion have nullify. So that's just a bad thing. It's there to make it more challenging for those who want more challenging.
Yes.
Okay, situations with authority. So situations previously had a reward. But these don't. These just add a secondary negative effect that you're trying to avoid. So again, more negativity that ramps up the challenge might not be fun for some people.
Right.
Okay, yearbook tokens. I'll have to say this was an interesting concept. May not have panned out too well for us. So each character now has 3 tokens. And after you overcome a hurdle, you'll gain one of these tokens. Now you can keep it or you can give it to another player. And what it allows you to do is flip the token over to use that character card ability instead of flipping over the character card. The only downside is if the character card is already flipped over, you can't use the token.
Yeah, and as far as we could tell, the way all the characters, I think there's like 6 of them in here.
Yeah, there's 6 characters in this one.
To refresh all the characters is that player needs to complete a location. Basically,
Yes.
they need to be the last one to put a marker on a location so that it goes away and a new one comes in.
We found that kind of difficult. So again, this is a neat concept. We'll talk more about what we like and don't like in that section of it. But yes, refreshing the character cards was a bit challenging to do. So it was a neat concept that just felt very restricted there.
Yeah, I think that's why they did the tokens, because they realized refreshing the characters are going to be tough. So if you hold out and use these tokens, then you can get more use out
I
of
just
them.
wish you had started the game with a token.
Right, because you don't get them until after a hurdle.
And yeah, it's going to be a while before you do your first hurdle. Okay, Treehouse of Harmony. So this is the new, I don't know what you call it, center location. Like all of the expansions in the base game have a main location that's always in play. And what's really neat about this one is it has 2 actions that you can do all the time instead of 3. But that third one is taken up by a friendship bonus. So if you start your turn there and at least one other player is there with you, you get a bonus. I'm trying to remember, what was it? You gain a horseshoe.
Yeah, which is the friendship.
Which is the friendship, which makes sense. So that was a really cool, neat little twist.
You do have to remember that you have it,
Yes.
but it's pretty simple to do that.
Yep. All right, so that covers all the new things that this expansion introduced. So let's talk about the 2-player experience. We found there's a lot of locations now.
Yeah, considering you start and you still have your main location and 3 locations
Around
in addition
So you have
at a
4
2-player.
locations from the base.
Yeah, and then if you throw in the classrooms and say either the principal's or the counselor's office, that's 4 more locations, basically doubling the space to be more of a map rather than a deck building game.
Yeah, it really shifts the focus of the whole game. And I think this applies to all player counts, but it shifts the focus away from building your deck to moving around physically on a map.
Because it wasn't hard to move around.
No.
They made it pretty easy to do that.
But you're spending all your extra resources to move than to buy cards. And we felt really stretched thin at the 2-player count to manage to do anything. And a lot of the focus just really ended up on moving around between the classrooms and the normal locations to try to get these things done, especially because you have to get those EEA tokens off and we didn't succeed. So we had to toss all the cubes that we had. I mean, we didn't have many, but for the final challenge, it's like, oh, we're going to the final challenge. We have cubes. Oh, nope, no, we don't. Forgot about that EEA token that we still didn't get to remove. So it just really felt like there was too much. The good news is you don't have to play with the classrooms, and you don't have to play with the principal's office guidance counselor. You could do one or the other or neither if there's other aspects of this expansion that you do like, and you can just leave those out of it. The other thing, speaking of the classrooms, is the fact that there was only one space for a 2-player game. So it just felt weird that we couldn't help each other to take these EEA tokens off. It just felt...
Don't work together in a co-op game?
Right. It felt very contrary to the whole friendship is magic thing. I just keep coming back to that. It's like, we're buddies and we're help. Oh, nope, can't help you. Sorry.
No cheating.
This is your test, not my test.
Yes.
It does feel like that, actually. It feels like we're taking a test and
yeah. It felt, like I said, friendship is magic and magic is homework.
All right. Well, that's it for how it changed the 2-player experience. So let's go on to accessibility. It's cognitively overwhelming.
Yeah, and you
so
also
much.
had a tough time trying to find anything in the rules for clarification.
Yes.
They do have headers, but they use thematics for their headers. So finding specific answers
was challenging.
Was very, very challenging.
They bolded keywords, but scanning text for bolded words is not as easy as I need the header that just talks about, whatever it is I'm looking for.
What is the challenge accepted?
Right.
No, they don't. They don't have that.
Yeah. So cognitively, this is just a bit more complex than the base game and definitely any of the other expansions. That's it, though, for accessibility. So before we go on to our ratings, let's actually talk a little more in depth about what we liked and what we didn't like. So likes, we can pretty easily say the pick a perk, that was just a straightforward good choice.
Yeah, and usually when we saw it, it was I get something, you get something.
Yeah.
Or you get something, I get something. It felt very thematically connected, and it was a neat choice.
Agreed.
So love the perks, pick a perks.
The anthems theoretically were really cool. We just didn't quite get it to work.
There's so little space in the main deck itself for them that unless you're stacking that section with just anthems, you probably would barely notice that they're there.
Right, but we do like it.
I like the concept of it.
Yes.
It does seem pretty interesting, so
I wish it wasn't so restricted that if one person at the location can't do it, then nobody can do it. That feels really arbitrarily weird.
Right.
I would have just said, whoever wants to sing, like not everyone wants to break out in song in the middle of the day or whatever.
I'm sorry, you're in Equestria. That is not how things work.
Okay, but still, anyways, that's my thing.
I would have liked if the person who can't or won't, they get something because you're cheering them up with your anthem.
Yeah,
that would have felt a little nicer, but no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
If they're not singing, they're dead to you.
We also just really like the new locations in general, but also that Treehouse of Harmony having that friendship bonus at the beginning.
I wish more locations had that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the only sad part about it because I think that's a cool mechanism to have it.
I agree. All right, so what we're mixed on is the classrooms. I mean, we like that you're using books to move to it, and the abilities are really neat, but that EEA token stuff
it can really sour you on the experience.
Right. And then disliked, we pretty much disliked everything else. I'm sorry. It's just unrewarding challenges. So much stuff was just
double negative situations.
Everything just overstayed its welcome, and it made the game really long. Now, caveat, we did play with everything so that we could experience it. And some people will jump into the deep end like that. I don't think this game is meant to play with everything in this expansion in one game because it just, I don't know. It felt like it tripled the amount of time.
Yes.
I feel like we took like almost 2.5, 3 hours to play.
I had less fun and it took me longer.
Right?
Yeah, and like the almanacs, some of them I wouldn't mind playing with.
Right.
But other ones, the card already cost more and it still gives me a negative?
Right.
What?
Yeah, it just feels like a lot of this expansion is, oh, we want to add these really great things, but we really need to make sure the status quo is maintained, except it doesn't even feel like you're maintaining the status quo. It feels like it's worse.
Yes.
A lot of it, because if you do it all together, it just feels like it's punching you left and right and sweeping your feet out from under you. And it's just like, I feel like I'm getting beat up, not like...
It was almost like the balance was made because they were afraid you might actually have fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's take that away from you.
All right. So here's the unfun part. We have to tell you how it rolled for us.
All right. So the initial base game for My Little Pony's Adventures in Equestria, the deck building game.
Yes.
You gave it a 6, I gave it a 5.
Yes.
Fantastic game.
Right.
How does Scholarly Shenanigans change that for you?
I had really high hopes because I love the school and the characters in the show. It's one of my favorite story arcs when they really delved into it. But how it got implemented in here just feels terrible. So this expansion rolls down to a 2. Honestly, it feels to me like they had a bunch of mechanisms and they developed them, and then someone else came along and said, hey, here's the part of the TV show that you're going to use, make it stick. And they did. So there's just times where it just feels very contrary to the whole point of the school was to make friends. And it just doesn't feel like we're being friends. Mm-hmm. So I don't really want to play with most of what's in this expansion, which is why it rolls down so bad for me.
Wow. I thought I was going to be rough because I've changed it from a 5 to a 3.
Yeah, you and I swing.
Well, the whole reason why it doesn't go as low as a 2 is because this is a co-op game, and this expansion does give an option for those who really thrive on a difficult, meaty challenge.
Yeah.
This helps bolster that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I didn't like most of what I did because it completely took me away from the actual deck building game, which is in the name of the thing that we struggle to say. So it felt like this was trying to turn the whole game into something it wasn't.
Right.
And that's where it really gets knocked down. And then the whole negative experience and it taking longer. I was like, okay, I've had fun with this game. Mm-hmm. I've had a good time, and I had it in a shorter period of time. This expansion is not doing that for me.
Right.
But I do see the value in it still, which is why a 3. But
yeah, I can see that mechanically it does make it harder. My problem is it just conflicts so much with the thematics. Right. And so for me, why I play the My Little Pony deck building game is because I want to play in that world of, ponies and magic and friendship and all that. And this just doesn't give me more of that. So
you could just consider it, this is the bad shows.
These are the bad episodes.
These are the bad episodes.
Well, school is hard.
And
school
it's terrible.
Is often unfun. So I guess thematically in that respect, it's, yeah. Okay.
All right, so 5 out of 12, probably.
For most people who are playing the My Little Pony deck building game because they like My Little Pony and they want a deck building experience,
there are nicer expansions.
There are better expansions that will give you that experience. This is going to be, and I guess we should roll into who this is for. It's going to be those who want more challenge in their My Little Pony deck building game. I'm just going to shorten it to that.
And those people do exist, because one thing we did try to point out, even with the base game, is despite its IP, this is not for families.
Yeah.
This is for the adult fans of My Little Pony.
Right.
So it's already at a higher level.
That's true.
And those players, there's going to be a bigger portion of them that like, well, this co-op experience isn't hard enough for me based on other co-op experiences. So that's this expansion's answer to those people.
The only other caveat I'd like to throw out is you have to be okay with a longer playing time, especially if you throw everything in. If you don't play with everything, it probably won't be as long. And of course, if you play at higher player counts, that's just going to make it even longer. So just be careful that when you want to add more challenge, because again, yes, this does that. When you want to add more challenge, it's also going to add more time.
Yes.
So there you go. That's everything we have to say about Scholarly Shenanigans.
All right, and Sarah.
Yeah.
Did this really feel like magic is homework?
It felt like homework is homework.
Well, then you get a C.
All right, yeah, that's fair
And
enough.
we've been rolling with more. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Discord, we have a channel on Tabletop Express. Check the show notes for the invite link.
If you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.